Okay, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's nice to have you. I am flying solo on this live. Well, not exactly, but I am the pilot. So everybody fasten your seatbelts. I hope this is going to be a smooth ride. I'm so excited to connect with everybody. It's been a while since we had a guest speaker on one of these live streams in Xiaohanshu for Teachers on our YouTube channel. I'm so excited to be able to stream on our YouTube channel. If you haven't already, do me the favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It would mean a world of difference. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring up my guest speaker, the fantabulous teacherpreneur, Melissa.
Hey, Kinga. How's it going? Hello, everybody.
Wait a second. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. Excited to stop in and see what you got cooking over here. So many fun people in the chat, too.
Yeah, thank you guys for popping off in the chat. If you guys have any questions for us throughout this live stream, for Teacher Melissa, for myself, please drop them in the chat. We'd be happy to answer them throughout the live or closer to the end. And yes, and we also had a chance, Melissa, to be on your YouTube channel as well, right?
Yeah, that was so fun. It was really cool to see how people were like, oh my gosh, this is how we do it. This is how we use Xiaohongshu. So the experts, the all-time experts on it. So it was great to have you on there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we thought that it would be awesome to have you and host you as well, because I know you talk a lot about diversification. And I think it's so amazing that you can show other teachers that Teacherpreneur looks differently for all of us. We don't all go the route of Chinese social media and trying to recreate, the teaching style or kind of class that we were hosting on platforms. So I know you're going to tell us all about that today. So yeah, Melissa, can you share a little bit about your background and where you are in your teacherpreneurship today?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I started out as a classroom teacher, as many online teachers did, and made the transition into online teaching after my fourth kid was born, and started out with VIP Kid, hung out on there for about 2.5 years. And then as that kind of started going downhill with double reduction policy, started branching out. And so I started teaching with an organization. I started working with a woman in Korea I teach group classes with, started getting my own students using my WeChat contacts, and then local students as well, where I live here in South America and Ecuador. And so it has been a wild ride. Oh, all school too. I teach at all school as well. And then since then have kind of found a niche of helping other teachers kind of scale and grow, especially the moms out there, especially the homeschooling families out there. So it's been kind of fun to dip my toes into that arena as well, and making products and kind of sharing all about it on YouTube and social. So it has been quite the ride, but very, very cool, very rewarding. Always learning.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's a lot of work, but like you say, it's rewarding in the end. And you are also actively homeschooling your children, if I understand that well, right? Hats off to you. That's amazing. Really.
It's a really good option. It's a really good option for a lot of people who are homeschooling. They do want some sort of income, so it's helpful.
Absolutely. And I think it really aligns with teacherpreneur moms, this idea of being able to kind of marry those two concepts of homeschooling your children and running your business on the side. So that's wonderful. So you mentioned a lot, like you have your fingers in a lot of pots, and I know you talk about diversification. So roughly, how many income streams do you think you have set up actively? Sure. If I can ask you, I am the sales person.
Absolutely. So. I did reveal this on my YouTube channel. I took the time to make the pie chart because I was curious. I was like, I wonder, to my shame, I guess I probably should have done this earlier, but really broke down what each stream was bringing in. So I have 4 main teaching streams. An organization I work for, which is Brain Train, 21st Century Skills, Gifted Learning. The next one is teaching on all school. The next one is my private one-on-one teaching. And then I'll all school, private teaching, out school, and Korea, my teaching in Korea. So those 4 teaching streams. And then I've got kind of 2 others right now. It's social media stuff. These are brand partnerships, any sort of affiliate activities, and then also doing some product selling. So I make stuff and post it on TPT as well as my own store, which I use Koji for that, which is a really good option if people don't want to deal with the commission of Teachers Pay Teachers. So definitely took some time to learn to do all that, but it's been really cool to kind of see how it all plays into each other.
Awesome. Wow. So that's a lot. That's a lot. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the amount of
yeah.
going on? Just that's coming from a personal space. Like I wonder how
it's taken time for sure, but it's taken processes. I think that's something that we kind of learn. We figure out what we need to spend money on in order to make the process function correctly. For me, that looked like purchasing curriculum, ESL curriculum. So I use ESL Pals. It works great for the classes that I teach that are ESL based. They've got kids and adults, business. So it's all there. It's downloadable. So I can boom, 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 slot those in my Notion slots that I made for my lesson planning template. And it's all there. And I can sit down and I kind of batch this. So I'll do all my private kids and I'll plan it out for 3 months, barring some sort of like huge instructional shift that we need to make, that's going to be fine. I can pretty much follow the scope there. Same with my Korean classes. I try to plan 2 months at a time, which sounds crazy in some ways, but I've gotten so quick at it and I've got kind of a cycle that I do with them. And then for Brain Train, it's all kind of a cycle of curriculum that I don't have to deal with. So it's nice to kind of be hands off there. And then for All School, my classes are using ESL Pals. And something that I encourage a lot of people to do if they do start teaching on Out School or All School is find a class that you can create that does not require you to plan a darn thing. That sounds crazy, but at the same time, like I have a public speaking show and tell class. And so kids bring 2 things each week and they show up and I've got like 60 pairs of things and very few kids are going to stick around for 120 weeks. And so it's like, you've got kind of a good cycle in there. And so, yeah, it's that lesson planning part doesn't feel as overwhelming now. The social media part is a little bit trickier. And we can talk about that a little bit more later on, but that is definitely, that has required strategy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And for those of you joining us and watching the replay, here is Melissa's YouTube channel. You can catch a video there where she does, in fact, dissect her income. I think I watched that video, right? You spill some tea about your income and your income streams. So I would love to have you join her there, subscribe, like the video. I think it was really informative. I really enjoyed it. And something just came to my mind, Melissa, another niche for you, I've picked for you is time management skills for teacherpreneurs. Because one thing that always amazes me about you and really inspires me is your ability to manage your time. Like you said, you have 4 kids. I have 2 and I'm struggling. And I know that's on me. It's my lack of discipline and time management. So, maybe a workshop in the future about batching 2 months ahead. I would attend.
However possible, but finding those systems. And you and Chris are Notion fans too. And so I feel like that works for us. If you need a notebook and pen, great, do that. But find some way, for those listening, I know you've got a lot going on, so it doesn't just have to do with that. But yeah, definitely a part of making it all work.
Yeah, definitely valuable. Joelle says, yeah, homeschooling fantastic. I see a really huge increase in homeschooling, especially as teachers are leaving classrooms in the US, but also I am observing it in Poland as well, which is quite unusual. It's really a taboo subject, homeschooling here.
Really?
So yeah, I can see this shift happening. It's unimaginable to take your kid out of school and educate them in the home. It's not something that's, I don't know how to put it. It's just not culturally recognized, basically, for lack of a better word.
Wow.
But
Yeah. No, could be a
I see
community.
more like eagerness to kind of shift into this kind of educational system. So that's
That's
great.
cool. Yeah. More the merrier. We're here. Let us know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So great. Um, Perfect. So thank you so much for telling us about your journey from, platform teaching into teacherpreneurship. By the way, before I get into the next question, this transition, was this something that you had always planned on doing, going independent, or is this something that kind of sprung up on you, spur of the moment, and you just went with the flow? How did it look like for you, this transition?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think I was forced into it. Definitely like got the kick in the butt because of the double reduction policy. I know I had thoughts where I was like, is this, for VIP Kid, for example, I was
Mhm.
teaching straight from 5 a.m. and I'm Central US time. So
Okay.
from 5 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. So 3.5 hours every morning. And then at night, usually for an hour and a half. That was a lot. And it was just on. And I would, it was sometimes my kids were like, "Did you fall asleep like when you were standing there?" I was like, "Yeah, I did." There were some classes where I would just nod off and it was so boring. So I was like, am I really going to do this for the long run? How many years am I going to do this? And what is my exit? Because it was going well. I was never lacking students, thankfully. I mean, I know a lot
Mhm.
of people struggled with that. So I don't dismiss the fact that I was really blessed with a lot of students and a full schedule. However, it was just nonstop. And so I'm really glad that that happened. I know it was a hard moment for a lot of us, but figuring that out, I was making consistently $2,000 a month with VIP Kid,
Wow,
teaching that many hours a day,
that's amazing.
6 days a week, and had no nights off, had no weekends off. I mean, it was every Saturday. So after that, it was just kind of like, okay, how can I be healthier? How can I sleep more? Basically, because I was still trying to work out in other moments. That's something that's really important to me. But there was like this kind of conflict there. And so I was like, all right, this is a chance to reevaluate and let's see if I can make more than that. And now, as you mentioned, the YouTube channel, I mean, I am making about $4,000 a month. Some months are more, some months are less, but it's
Mhm.
about there. And so, double, and I'm working less hours in front of a camera, let's say,
Yeah.
because I am still doing a lot of the admin work, a lot of the behind the scenes, but it's of my own choosing, and it's because I'm growing something. And so that was a really cool shift that no, I didn't anticipate, but I was kind of hoping for, I guess, maybe subconsciously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting, and I'm glad I thought to ask you about that because I know that time. First of all, I know that you and Chris spoke a lot about platform trauma and those
Mm-hmm.
feelings of being burnt out and those early mornings and feeling tired, and we were so on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to somebody who works a 9 to 5, if you tell them that you taught for like 4 or 5 hours, it sounds like, oh my gosh, what are you talking about?
Feels
But
like
but it's on, so it does get exhausting after some time.
mm-hmm.
So I could totally understand that. But also, I totally resonate with what you said. But for me, I remember feeling like, hey, when is this going to end? Exactly what you said, like my exit, but feeling some kind of anxiety around that. Like, if this does end, how am I ever going to find a job that allows me to work from home and,
Mm-hmm.
make the same income?
Yeah.
That really freaked me out. And so I think that for me, the double reduction policy was a blessing in disguise because it showed me that I can make it
Yeah.
alone. I don't need a platform. And if that didn't happen, I don't think I would have ever transitioned.
Totally. Well, and there's so many soft skills that we
Yeah.
picked up while teaching online. We
Yes,
we
exactly.
laugh at. I may have mentioned this to you before, but like when we're hiring people at Brain Train now, we kind of immediately, if somebody says they worked for one of these big companies, we're like,
Mhm.
oh, we're interested in you because you've taught thousands of kids in every circumstance. I mean, kids who want to be there, kids who don't want to be there, kids who are struggling. So you've got this skill set of being a really good teacher, but then you kind of have to transition into even more soft skills of, communication and marketing and negotiation, even
Absolutely.
with parents and all these kind of businessy skills, and then the hard skills of what's the tech. What the tech do I need to get this done? And so it's at that point you're kind of like, all right, I'm going to spend some time getting the skills that I need and then putting them into practice. It takes some guts. And so if anybody's
Absolutely.
in that moment, which I think maybe the people here are, that's something that we're kind of cheering for you on, because it's worth it. But it does take a second to kind of develop.
It does take a second. And we also talked about this, that everybody has their own path. There are teachers who go the route of, doing things organically, getting in there and figuring those steps out on their own, step by step. But also connecting with the community. There are some people who connected with a mentor or did a course. There is no right way. There are just different ways, and there are different ways that are appropriate for everybody else and resonate with people differently. So I think that's also important to know. But I like what you said, that it is worth it, because I often hear this even in Xiaohongshu for teachers, that about Little Red Book. Wow, it seems like a lot of work for so little in return. And it is. And I like to say from my tough love, it's not for everybody, because I know not everybody is in that mindset of being able to get uncomfortable, maybe sacrifice the stability of a regular paycheck. Being a freelancer in the beginning, or an entrepreneur, is a bit uncomfortable and unstable. There are those moments, but when you really break through that, it's worth it in the end. I agree with you.
And I would even say, once you get those initial students, I know for me, like once my schedule is full, you're chilling. I mean, and yeah, some may come and go, and there's always the risk that somebody will say, "Hey, we're not going to renew our package" or whatever.
Yeah,
And so it's
absolutely.
probably good to have
That's
a
not
wait
normal.
list. Yeah,
Mhm.
but it's not full on all the time. You're not always kind of seeking new students that way. So it's definitely um, it fluctuates, I guess I could say.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
It kind of gets to a point where the system maintains itself.
Hmm.
If you went on my Xiaohongshu profile, you would see I didn't post in a long time, because I don't need to. My base of hot, warm leads, I call them, they do the work for me. I have, referral marketing in place, and so on and so forth. And when one student decides to resign, another one pops up.
Yeah.
So I think it gets to that point as well.
Nice.
By the way, Melissa, I have a question.
Mhm.
As far as your student base, how long did it take you to scale it to the level that you wanted it to be, where you could, be okay with the income?
Yeah. I guess when I started, I was shifting that, we were talking about the pie chart. I was shifting the percentages in there. So I was
Okay.
dealing with the same pieces, but I taught more with Brain Train, for example. Right now, I only teach 5 classes a week for
Hmm.
them, but before I was teaching 15. And then I kind of shifted around the slots that I couldn't fill with my $60 an hour Chinese students. I could then shift to something else that would be nearly always filled and fun and zero prep. And so there's just that was kind of what I was working with. So when I wanted to, when I reached out to a couple of my prior VIP Kids students and said, "Hey, do you know anybody who would also like to take class with me? Here are the times that I have open." And then I get a twin sister and a cousin and a friend, and hey, this guy that I know needs some business English. Once you kind of get a few of those, then it fills up. And I liked to selectively offer what I was going to do. So I know that some of my classes that I offer are 50 minutes, and if I wanted to protect that 50-minute slot, then I wouldn't offer up those times. I would just say these 25-minute time blocks are available. And that way I could kind of maximize. So diversification, it's the income streams, but it's also looking globally, kind of at what time of the day where you live and you've got available to teach, are you going to be able to make the most, for the hour that you have. So at 7 p.m. my time, I don't have any Asian students who are going to wake up at 7 a.m. and want class with me. So it's that sort of thing that we kind of have to juggle as well. But that's kind of how I got to a happy point. It didn't take long for me to be happy with my income. I was happy from the beginning because I was just making more than I was.
Perfect.
And so it's kind of all icing on the cake, really. But yeah.
Okay, that sounds very encouraging. And I like what you mentioned about the pie method, kind of, scaling forward and backwards your income as you need it to be, because I think in diversification that happens a lot. So as you see one hustle growing, then you start investing more time in it, and I think that income grows in turn as well. Awesome. So I want to touch a bit more on socials, because I know you're also really social media savvy, on YouTube, on Instagram. Anything else I'm missing?
YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I do have a Facebook group, which is
Awesome.
EdTech curriculum and platform support. So 3 things that I feel like I've had enough practice in, and I feel like I've got a lot of resources to share with people. And so that group is pretty fun. It's cool to see what people are using, what they're sharing. So that's a good place to be as well. But in terms of strategy, is that what you're asking? What kind of strategy is out there?
Well, I wanted to ask you if you used any of those channels or those platforms to kind of leverage and grow your student base at all. If
To
if
be
that was
honest,
a
I didn't.
okay.
Students I found elsewhere. So
Okay.
if I was looking for like local students here in the city where I live, I would go to my mom group. Hey, anybody? Because we have like an English play group kind of chat. And so, hey, anybody need reading classes or ESL classes at this time, 7 p.m. my time, which was great, before bed, after dinner. So it was kind of this in between time that I couldn't fill elsewhere, and I knew I
Mhm.
could still make a good amount there. Great. And then WeChat, and I was on Xiaohongshu for a minute, and then I had all my slots filled, and I was like, okay, I'm not
Okay.
gonna I'm not gonna dive into this anymore. But yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think Xiaohongshu differs in that way, where, in my experience, I only scale it to the moment that I needed it, right? Like I mentioned, and just as you said. But like, if you are marketing on Instagram and building this major personal brand, then you have to show up consistently, and really build and nurture your community there. So I think it's quite a bit different in that way.
absolutely.
Yeah, so very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's also encouraging, I think, because I think a lot of teachers get daunted by the fact that social media is the sole way to source students,
Yeah.
and it might not be, right?
Yeah. And I would even say, yes, use social media, but in a different way. So not just, hi, I have class, I teach this. It's
Right.
a little bit more of a nurturing thing. And then it's also sharing something cool about what you're doing. So I think something that I may end up doing in the future is a little bit more with the homeschool community. And so where do I find homeschoolers who are warm to the
Mhm.
idea of class? Facebook. Facebook is a weird place, but it's also a very good place for
Absolutely.
everyone to kind of gather in what they're interested in. And so homeschoolers are passionate people, and they are curious, and they are wondering what their neighbor is doing, because we're in our homes and we're not in another person's classroom. And so you're just curious. And I know when we were first starting out, we've been homeschooling for like 8 years now. But when we were first starting out, I just wanted to know everything. And thankfully, I had 4 good friends who were a little bit older and had kids who were a little bit older. But that is kind of what Facebook feels like to me now, where I can then share, for example, my products with the homeschool community.
Hmm.
And so it's not
Hmm.
my classes necessarily, but it's products, or it's a workshop that I'm hosting or something like that. And so I think the idea of students is important if that's your biggest income stream. But if you're looking to diversify, figure out what you're offering, figure out who you're offering to, and then go find them. Where are they hanging out? What do they need? What are they looking for? And try to provide that in the most clear way that you can.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said. I totally agree with you there. So that's amazing. And I think an important point that you mentioned is that now you're at the level that you can share your offers and speak more about them, but you've built that rapport, right? You
Mhm.
didn't just barge in there and say, "Hey, sign up for my class." That's super important,
Yeah.
because especially as expats, if you're living, in another country, you can definitely leverage that community, and find some possible leads there.
Mhm.
But like with any strategy, if you go in there and pitch to a cold audience, it's just going to fall on deaf ears. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for mentioning that aspect of building rapport and trust. I
Yeah.
think it's really important.
It is.
Great.
It is.
So you talked a bit about your offer, and that's something I really wanted to ask you about, your summer offer. And what really enticed me to ask you about that is because I think that you run some kind of summer camps or some kind of special summer promotions. Am I correct? Or
I'm not right now. I did before, but it's something it makes a lot of sense. And especially right now, for example, I have two students who are like, they're Chinese, so they're heading to the US for the summer. They're going to some music camp and some public speaking camp and all the whatnot. So they're gone for the summer. I've got about 9 weeks of no class with them. So that leaves these 30-minute chunks here and there. Now, if I would have known before, here's what I would have done. I would have put together kind of a skill-based or interest-based idea. So what I would like to do next year is have these ready. That way, when mom tells me, hey, we're going to be on starting July 1st, I can, boom, schedule that in all school, probably is where I would do it. I don't think I would have the bandwidth to recruit that many students that quickly. But if I were to market it that way as kind of a skill-based, for example, one that I could do, but it's a little too long, is my YouTube for kids class.
wow,
So it's a public speaking class. So it's basically what we're talking about here today. It's who are you talking to? How are you going to help them? What is your style? What's going to make you different as this person who's talking about this topic? And then let's foment the public speaking skills so that you're able to do it on camera, record yourself. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit about editing, but that's not the most important thing because your parents signed you up for this class so that you would be a better public speaker. And so the kids are excited about YouTube. The parents are excited about the public speaking part and the kind of marketing soft skills that we're teaching there. But that's the type of offer that I would put out there, is a skill-based, interest-based thing.
Okay.
And then figuring out how to package it. Is it a fixed amount of time? That's probably best because you're working with a summer camp, basically schedule. Maybe it's 4 weeks, maybe it's 4 days in a week, Monday to Thursday or something. And then from there, you can then pitch your, ongoing year-round public speaking class or one-on-ones with you that are a higher dollar class cost. And so there's that sort of thing that can then lead to long-term students, but you're kind of drawing them in through this interest-based thing. And then when you're thinking about who to invite, if you have the luxury of pulling from students, if you've got, an existing student base and you say, hey, I've got this intermediate level, intermediate advanced, making it exclusive, right? We're showing them, hey, I've kind of handpicked you. And you do want to handpick them because this is going to make it awesome for everybody. I don't know have you taught many group classes? I don't know. A lot of your classes are probably one-on-ones, right?
I have taught group classes, and I used to even teach, I spoke about this today. I used to teach like in public school in China online. And that class was filled with like 50 students. So I actually love and adore the group class dynamic.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for it. And I think I even enjoyed a little bit more than the one-to-one class.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of dynamics there.
Yeah.
And especially if it's not 50, that would be overwhelming.
It was fun. We had like a co-teacher on site. It was fun. It was more about exposure, to the Western style of teaching and a foreign teacher. So it was that cross-cultural connection.
Sure.
Really.
Yeah.
So I really did enjoy that.
That's awesome. Yeah. But if you can create that kind of amazing environment, which it sounds like you had in those classes, fantastic. Brain train classes, we do the same. We aim for 4 to 6 kids. That's kind of the sweet spot where you've got enough variety in personalities, ideas. Somebody's bound to disagree with somebody else. And so you get this really good conversation. And especially for those classes, which are like higher level thinking, you're just like, man, this is amazing. It's a really cool thing to be a part of. And so when you can kind of make it exclusive and choose who you're going to include in this class, that makes it more appealing for them. They might move some things around in their schedule to make it work, and possibly be an added value that you could then raise the prices a little bit and say, we're only taking the first 6 people or something like that. So that would be kind of one of my suggestions for summer camps. Again, like I didn't do it this year. I probably should have, but I just didn't have the space in my schedule to do it until later. But a very cool way to kind of bump up the summer earnings when sometimes they might dip.
Great. I love that. Yeah, I think that's a great, great strategy and a great possibility for some teachers to look into teaching on some of these platforms like All School, Out School. I know that Koala has a similar platform available. But one thing I do hear, and it's very similar to what I hear about teachers signing up on Xiaohongshu, that the market is oversaturated. So if we were to, which by the way, I don't agree with, but it's been said.
Yeah,
But let's say we were going to craft an offer for this kind of platform. What could we do to ensure that this offer would stand out and we could kind of boost that enrollment into our class? What
sure.
would you recommend?
So make sure your class is clear.
Mhm.
The name of your class. I made this mistake on my kind of banner class that I teach. I said show and tell public speaking and nothing else. And so I had native speakers coming in, and I had A1 English speakers coming in, and they were like, this is clearly the wrong class for me. And the kids in the middle were like, where do I fit in? And everyone was correct. No one fit into that class because I
Okay,
didn't even know
that's
what
a
was
valid
supposed to
point.
be going on there. So be clear who you expect to be in there. So if that is in place, then you've got a kind of an appealing professional class thumbnail that whatever they're going to interact with, they say, oh, that looks nice. They look like they know what they're doing. But once you've got all that in place, don't skimp on that. Once you've got all that in place, if you're on one of these platforms, here's what I would do. I create a coupon. Just did this a couple weeks ago for my show and tell class because enrollment dipped a little bit. Created a coupon, and then there's almost always a messaging feature, and there's almost always some way for families to follow you, tag you, some sort of relationship so that they can follow what you're doing and they get notified. And so for All School, at least, I know that there's a way for us to find who has followed us, who has bought our classes before. And so I'll just type up a quick message. Hey, remember me? I'm Melissa. I teach this. It's great for kids of this age, of this level. This class that I have a coupon for at the end of this message is about this. This is what we'll do each week. You can expect to be able to do this at the end of class. And here's $5 off. Make it a valuable thing. Get them in the door, help them see that this is a worthwhile thing, because they may have a couple weeks free and they'll pop in. They may leave eventually, but that's okay. You're trying to
Mhm.
fill kind of a dip in the year with this kind of step of a coupon or an extra message to kind of make that connection.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for, adding that special touch or that bonus. I am also a fan of adding bonuses to entice, enrollment, or even sometimes to extend my gratitude for re-enrollment sometimes. So do you have any boundaries around your promotions or, how you dish those out so they're not expected? Because I think that also puts us into dangerous territory of when that bonus is expected, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that there is a way, a setting to say this is only available one time for each family. And the platforms are very aware that people will try to skirt this rule, will create multiple accounts, and there are ways to alert the platform to these multiple accounts. I know on OutSchool, there's only 2 accounts allowed, and then they are banned from the platform, which is intense. But it keeps the integrity there too. So yeah, a limit is definitely necessary. One per family, I think is important to keep there.
Okay, I see. And that's like one per family per enrollment in the class, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and the tricky part is, oh, I'll just unenroll and then re-enroll.
Hmm.
And you can report that. There are ways to do that. And I think it's important to remember that if families are doing that, there may be a financial reason, but there may be a lack of rapport because not many people who you respect would say, "Oh, I'm just going to keep chipping away at that teacher's income." That's not what really people with integrity would do. And so the idea here is
Yeah,
to call
exactly.
it out. Yeah, it's not okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very important for us to, be those vigilantes and like set those boundaries and maybe that might deter them from doing it in the future. Right? So we're really doing a public service to our fellow teacherpreneurs, right? By doing so.
Yeah.
Great. So Listen, I want to circle back a little bit to social media. I know you said that you don't necessarily use your social media platforms to recruit new students, but you still are a teacher coach, right? So you are quite visible and active on your social media channels. You talked a little bit about batching content, setting up your strategy. So maybe you could give us some quick tips in terms of prepping that strategy, or what kind of content you find to be most valuable in terms of, let's say, building community and rapport, because I think that's a first important step in our content strategies.
Sure. Well, I think being relatable. So you're looking at my schoolroom right now. This is where our kids play. We do crafts.
Yes.
So I do not have a fancy desk. My computer sits on top of a plastic tub with my kids' schoolwork in it. This is not a
Okay.
fancy setup. So, for some people, they're like, "Ew, your schoolroom is gross." But a
No.
lot of people are like, "Hey, thanks for showing that because that's what mine looks like too. I actually
Exactly.
sit on the floor to teach class," and I'm like, "Heck yeah!" All right, so we're being very realistic here. So I try to show what it looks like from my point of view of like, this is what I got. I'm a homeschooling mom, and I
Mhm.
love getting new things and new toys to play with in terms of like teaching business stuff. But this is also the real and what I'm working with. So
Mhm.
that I think is important in terms of connecting with an audience. But I think the more important thing is to then solve a problem. And so for a lot of us, we've got these like, yeah, but what should I do about this? But how do I do this? But what tool should I use to do this? Do I really have to spend money on that? And so for me, these were all things that I wondered and I kind of noted as I was going along in this journey. And then started picking out a topic each week. And for me, this looks like creating the YouTube video around this topic, this question that someone in my niche would have. And so I've got someone in mind. I actually have a person, a real life friend who is a great teacher. She was an in classroom teacher before, started teaching online with VIP Kid, and then moved in and is really motivated, but is wondering how, and just needs some guidance. And so when I have her face in mind, I'm like, great, she would need to know this, this, and this. So I'll create the YouTube video around that. And
Mhm.
then I create my weekly email around that, include any offers that would be helpful. I mentioned affiliate links. Affiliate links are great. They're not a huge source of income, at least for me right now. And so it's nice to just be able to say, hey, here's something that I use that helps. And it happens to help me if you use this too. So 3 options for you. Take your pick. And that might bring back some income on my part as well. And then taking these kind of small video. I like to use video. So I've got my YouTube video, I've got reels, shorts on YouTube, stuff like that. But it doesn't have to be exhausting, mentally exhausting, because it's all on the same topic. And I already made a whole YouTube video about it. And I've got a script of the YouTube video that I can just, boop, this is going to be a reel, this is going to be a post, this is going to go in the email. And it all kind of comes together. And so once that's all done, it gets scheduled for the most part. And very little of what actually goes out has to be done at the click of a button. And so it's one of those things that has kind of evolved over time, but it's worked really well. And just saying you're very visible, thank you. Because again, a lot of people don't have the 360 view. Maybe I don't have, like, for the past 10 years, I didn't have social media. I've been on social media for like 18 months, but I've
Mhm. Wow.
since had to learn. And some people are only Instagram people. Some people are only Facebook people. Some people are only YouTube people. Some people only get your email. And so you do need to show up in all those places, but it doesn't have to be, over the top on just one. So that's why I think it's been helpful. And I created a presentation about this. If anybody, I know you and Chris are also presenting at Ashley DiMercurio's Teachers Make
Yeah.
Money Summit.
Shout out.
And
Shout
this
out
is
to Ashley.
this is what my topic is. And so my presentation is about using video to grow your teaching business.
Awesome.
And the idea is to kind of take one big question that your niche is probably dealing with and answer it.
Great, great. So check out our socials in the upcoming in the upcoming weeks,
Yeah,
right?
can't wait.
In
Yeah.
the upcoming weeks, we'll be doing a lot of promo around the Teachers Make Money online summit. It's going to be fantastic. It's always a value added packed event.
Value packed ton.
The words
Yeah.
are escaping me now. So super. I will definitely tune into that presentation. That sounds Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. I wanted to ask you, Melissa, so now with the like presence of AI, do you incorporate that to kind of repurpose any content perhaps?
I don't.
Okay.
I really enjoy writing. I know a lot of people
Okay.
don't. And so if that's you, go for it. AI sounds fantastic. I did use it a little bit as like when Notion came out with their AI tool. That was really helpful. Sometimes I use it to make lists if I'm really just having a brain fart kind of day and I'm like, I don't know what else I could think about for this topic. Idea generation, brainstorming session. Yeah, I'll use it for that. But in terms of like writing scripts and stuff like that, I enjoy it, and I feel like my voice doesn't come across in AI stuff. So I know I'm
Mhm.
in the minority right now because everybody loves it, but maybe I just haven't figured out how to use it correctly yet. Get that prompt right.
But that's okay. Like, we all play on our strengths and do what we love, right? So, if it's a little bit tedious writing out a caption or a script, then someone might use AI to help them with
Absolutely.
that. But if that's your area of genius and brings you joy, then that's fantastic to do that. Absolutely. All the way. Great. So I know that you very often collaborate with a lot of teacherpreneurs in our community and space. And I see you, participate in a lot of summits. I even found out that you're going to be involved in 2 summits, actually. So that's really cool. You're always doing guest lives. You're hosting. You're guesting as well. So I see you doing a lot of networking. How important do you think it is to network with your community as a teacherpreneur? And how has that played a role in your journey as a teacherpreneur as well?
Well, as we were saying at the beginning, like there's so much to learn. And
Mhm.
so I feel like I've learned so much just from paying attention, opening my eyes. And, every conversation we have always comes back to Tim. So online teacher dude, obligatory shout out in this conversation.
Shout out.
I just learned so much from him. And so
Yeah.
the fact that he even invited me to come tell my story, I was like, oh my word, wow, look at me. And I had zero social media at that point, zero. And I think I
Okay.
even said on the live, like, I have no plans to get a YouTube, any
Look
sort of
at
social media. Shh, put duct tape over my mouth. But that was awesome, and it kind of gave me a look into like, oh, there's more that I could kind of slot some of these things that I've grown to know to do into ways to serve others, and so it was really cool to. I'm sorry. They were doing construction. Let me close a window outside. Give me just a second.
No worry, no worry. Hold that thought. At first, I thought it was a dog. Turns out it's construction. No worries. It was
No, we
barely
don't even have
audible.
a dog. I mean, I live in a city, so you've
Okay.
always got the rogue dog. Okay, so there's always something to learn. And so I learned so much from Tim. I learned how to set up Stripe. I learned how to set up a website. I learned how
Right.
to invoice using WeChat Pay. Step number one. Step number two, then go out and figure out who is doing something tangential to you. Cute English teacher, online teacher dude is
Yes.
who you want to
In
look
the
for.
online teacher dude.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So once you get out there and you're finding out people who are doing things tangential, you and Chris are the perfect example of this. You guys are always looking for people who are connecting in different ways and who are doing similar things. And so I feel like there's no excuse not to figure out how you can bring your audience some other expert. I am
Yeah,
0% expert in Xiaohong Shu. Why would I not bring you guys into my audience? If I want to help them succeed, this is another piece in the puzzle that could make it all come together for them. And so I feel like, and Ashley says this too, collaboration over competition. I am not
yes,
competing with
yes,
you. There's no competition with you guys. There's no competition with Tim. I mean, it's just like we're all serving these different audiences. And as somebody said to me, I mentioned, hey, you can go watch this person's video on this topic. And they said, oh, I don't like their speaking speed. Really? That's what's gonna turn you off from their channel. And then I was like, okay, so you want me to talk about this topic because of my speaking speed. Great. Okay. I'm your flavor of teacher coach.
exactly.
Great. I'll step
Exactly.
into that. And so that kind of gave me permission a little bit to step out and say, here I am, here's what I can do to help, here's my experience. if you choose me, then I'd be happy to work with you. But there are plenty of us out there who have lots of different expertise, and there's really no excuse not to be working with other people, because it's just frankly the best way to grow and help the people that you're actually working with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I totally love what you said about, bringing on guest experts in your community. Like you said, and shout out again to Ashley, collaboration over competition, because we all have unique skill sets. And like you said, we can all present them in a different way. And, different people resonate with different leaders, right? That's totally natural. But also, and I think that you might have talked about this with Chris, it's goes back to platform trauma. At least my platform was like this, because I didn't come from VIP Kid, but our platform really isolated us from other teachers. And they did that because obviously they were exploiting other teachers at very low rates. So, for one teacher to find out that another teacher was earning 3 times more than they were, that would have been, very bad for the company. So we were very isolated, which made it even more complicated when the company was shutting down and we didn't know what was going on. We felt very alone.
Yeah.
And when I did link up with the community through Tim, the online teacher dude, it was like a whole new world open, and we were sharing our experience, what we learned along the way. And that's when I began sharing more about Xiaohongshu, and I realized, wow, this is some powerful information, because there were a lot of teachers on Xiaohongshu already, but nobody was really kind of speaking about it openly yet. And, here we are, fast forward 2 years later, and I think almost every online teacher knows by now what Xiaohongshu is.
Yeah.
But then
one more thing to add to that is that, like, you don't know where it's going to lead you. So as you mentioned, you didn't anticipate this, but hey, this actually was something that was needed, and you kind of stepped into it. One person that I was working with in an early brand partnership that I had, I met another teacher named Abby. And so Abby and I decided, hey, let's do a collab, and, we'll get paid by this company that we were working with. It was great. So we were talking on being moms and being teachers and how to scale with only an hour. That was our collab. As we were talking, she's kind of a product expert. And so she introduced me to a couple other platforms, Nuggets of Wisdom, Teach Simple, and then rebranded Teacher Academy, which is where I learned all about like TPT and products. And that has been, oh my gosh, you just opened my eyes to, whoa, this new, income stream, really. And then she and I kind of put together this collaboration over the summer with a bunch of other teachers. Maybe this isn't public knowledge yet. We haven't really said, but later in July, we're all doing like a big giveaway. And so it was this unexpected business venture that we were all in, but just because I said yes to one thing. And so I think that's another reason. Say yes if you can, if it's not going to be a detriment to your health, your family life. Say yes and try, because that definitely wasn't something I had experience in before.
I'm laughing because this reminds me of like when Chris and I were first getting together. And sometimes I lay awake at night and I'm like, how did we start this whole Xiaohongshu thing? And I just try to look back on it. But I remember one time we were like feverishly like voice noting each other all of our ideas. And then I started to get overwhelmed. And I remember telling him like, hey, maybe we need to pump the brakes and like, let's launch this like in a few months. And he's like, no. That was the first time he was like pulling me back down to the ground. Like, no, I think we're going to do this like now. And that's how it started basically. Yeah. So it's also about that accountability. I think like for me, it definitely is. I struggle with discipline and I need somebody to keep me accountable, especially being a solopreneur and a freelancer. Like it's really important for me to have somebody tracking my progress and making sure I'm implementing my ideas as well.
That's huge. That's huge. And to know that about yourself, I think is huge too. So
it is.
Thumbs up to you.
A lot of self-reflection has been happening in the past few years. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes it's good to recognize those weaknesses that you have and, learn how to navigate them in a way that's more functional to you as well. Awesome. So speaking on that note, what like my thing is keeping myself disciplined, time management. What are some of your challenges that you've been facing or have faced along the way in your journey?
Sure. For me, and this has been since I was a kid, it's always just been, and we go and we try and we probably succeed because we can figure out how to sweet talk our way in, or, that's just, are you familiar with the Enneagram by any chance?
The Enneagram?
Enneagram.
I don't think so.
Okay, it's a personality description system. So it's not prescriptive or anything. It describes you. So it describes your motivations and your fears and where you work out of. And so finding that about me, finding out I'm a 3. So if anybody listening is Enneagram literate, I'm a 3. So I'm the performer, which is great in some ways and it's horrendous in other ways. And so when you read these descriptions, you're like, oh, have you been inside my brain? Did you know I thought that? And so it gives you like this moment of shame, but you're also like, hey, these are my superpowers because I can get 8,000 things done in a day, but I can also cut corners like nobody knows. And so it's this moment of, there we go. We got a 2. Thanks, Joelle. So she's a helper. So the helper will serve, but often, and I'll let Joelle describe her weaknesses if she wants to, but they are servers. They just want to help. And so it's a wonderful way to kind of describe your motivations. And so for me, learning that I take these shortcuts, it's not good when tax time comes and I have to be like, wait, I didn't do any bookkeeping. Or wait a second, I haven't been, tracking my income to give a pie chart kind of moment and say, hey, I probably should adjust this. I'm not good at pumping the brakes and reflecting on what I could do better. So that's always been a weakness of mine. I just want to go and try something new and probably do okay with it. But I probably could do better if I slowed down and took a look at what was happening. So thank you for asking that. I think that's really important. And if people are interested in the Enneagram, it's really helpful. There's 9 types and you can kind of read about yours. Yeah.
I will look into that. I know the INTJ personality test. That's another popular one.
Yeah.
But I will figure out the Enneagram, right?
Yep. Did you say ENTJ? That's what I am.
Is it INTJ? ENTJ? I forgot.
Introvert or extrovert?
I'm not sure.
Okay. But anyway, yeah.
It's a very short-term memory. Like, no. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Very good. So Joelle has expanded on her results. Flipping empath I am. I feel everything but help everyone with their feel and ignore mine. Okay. Yeah, but it's important. I think that's super important to recognize those. I don't want to call them weaknesses, but challenges so that we can, for example, in this case, set boundaries around that behavior so that we're not taken advantage of, but also, play to our strengths as well. Mm-hmm. By the way, Joelle, that sounds very Cancer on the zodiac of me. Are you a Cancer? Just wondering, because it's Cancer season and Chris and I are huge zodiac freaks. So I'm just wondering. All right. Very cool. So that was very insightful. Thank you, Melissa, for sharing more about your challenges. So I want to kind of wrap this up in a bow and, use this opportunity and pick your brain a little bit about what advice you would have for teachers who are just starting their journeys. And we did have a question posed by Liesel Cruz, who is an American teaching in another country and would love to transition online so I can better focus on my homeschooling as well. Amazing. Great. Shout out to all the homeschooling moms. Would you have started with online schools or going on your own? This is a great question because I often hear that question being asked if someone's just starting, is it worth it going independent immediately or signing up for a platform first and then working your way towards teacherpreneurship?
Yeah, I would maybe think about your income needs. A lot of times we kind of go to what we can give, but I would even start, why are you working in the first place? If you're working to make $20 an hour just for funsies, okay, go with that platform. But what I would suggest is having a dollar amount in mind that you need to make per hour, per 25 minutes, whatever your class time is. I would probably say an hour just so you can then do the division later. And keep that in mind. And that makes an easy yes or no for any opportunities that come your way, private or platform. And so if the platform comes up and it's $8 an hour, that will have you rethinking the offer. And you may just say, nope, it may take a little more time, but I'm going to go independent. If you do need like immediate income and the platform is going to provide that for you, however low, start there and then spend the extra time on your private marketing proposal, whatever you're gonna shoot out into the world. That would be probably your next step, so that you can diversify. Don't just choose one.
Yeah. So that's also another question. Like, what advice would you have for teachers about diversification? Why is it worth considering diversifying? I know, but like, can you put it in your words as to why it would be important to start thinking about that now and not later?
What if all of your private students go away tomorrow? However great private teaching is, independent teaching is, what if they all go away? You can't do anything about it. You don't have a contract with them that's long term. And so it's just some little bit of insurance that, yes, those 3 went away, but I'm not pulling in $0 this month because that happened. I've still got 75% of the rest of my income, even if 1/4 of that pie goes away for some reason. If I get kicked off a platform randomly, if I get fired from my position with this company, what is going to happen? Still got 75% because that's only 1/4 of the pie. And so it's just this, it's responsible. It's being responsible because you cannot control everything else that's happening. And if your income means something to you, then you really should be looking at different ways to use the same skills, but put your efforts into different places.
Absolutely. I think if you came to the right conclusion after the double reduction fiasco, and you should have walked away with a valuable lesson that it's definitely time to think about diversification. It was definitely true for me because actually I remember back in the day, a lot of teachers were teaching on several platforms like VIP Kid, Whales, Magic Ears,
Kid.
like,
Yeah.
and I was always like, how do they do that? That sounds so
Exactly.
complicated. Like,
Exactly.
I don't want to do that.
Look at us
So,
now. What?
yeah,
How many Notion pages do you have open?
oh, in my brain or on my computer?
Multiplied. Yeah.
But so I thought I was doing something right by sticking to one platform and scaling my job there to a full-time income, right? Full-time hours. But then that went away and I was like, "Ugh, well, they have no loyalty to me like I had expected. Like it left me with virtually nothing. So I'm never going to let that happen to me again." And I have definitely spent these past 2 years building, various income streams, not only myself but my family as well. Have been thinking about how can we, maybe look at different investments so we have something set up just in case. So definitely I think it's the way. And something that I see is, a lot of those teachers who stuck around after the double reduction and just started hopping from platform to platform, it's like, they're in troubled waters, I would say, right? Because the landscape of online teaching on platforms is not going to get any better. And I think it's always risky that a company can shut down or really just revoke your wages, I think. So that's also something to consider.
Yeah. And commission land. I mean, it's just when especially like on a platform like All School, where they take 25% commission, you're just
Wow,
like,
that's hefty.
well, quarter's gone. And I was a founding teacher, so I only have a 10% commission, which is nice, but
Which is good, yeah.
that's not normal. And so I'm still there because my commission is so low, and the students are there. However, it would not make sense to me to, depend on that if the commission were 25%.
Absolutely. And about that, I know that Koala has one of the most fair commissions for teachers on their platform. I think it's called Learn with Koala. So they're always really dedicated to building sustainable financial futures for teachers. I think their mission statement is that so every online teacher can buy a house with their teaching biz income. So I know that the commission fee there is very low. It's relatively low compared to the rest of these platforms.
Yeah.
Great.
So
So any other tips or advice you'd throw out there while we're still on the topic of newbie teachers who'd like to venture into this
yeah.
landscape?
I would say know who you're serving, and niche gets thrown around a lot. Think about, and you guys use the term star student, which I love.
Mhm.
Who's the kid
Mhm.
that's going to get the most out of class with you?
Yeah,
A 4-year-old is not going to get the best class with me. I am not the best tiny teacher. I'm more upper elementary, middle, high school,
perfect.
public speaking, writing, that sort
Mhm.
of thing. So when I know that's who I can serve best, I can up my added value. I can provide feedback. We can do Google Doc editing. I can provide recording. So figure out how you're going to provide that value, charge what you should.
Absolutely.
And then from there, kind of figure out how to nurture that main income source. Don't forget about that. But as you start to get more efficient in lesson planning and content producing, if that's something that you're doing, then you can start to explore new income streams. And I have a workbook about this. There's a whole huge page
Yeah,
of places that you
exactly.
can diversify to. Yeah, grab that. It is it's stuff that not everything on that page is something that I would want to do. So I don't assume that everything that I do on that page you want to do. And so it's
Mhm.
just it's a very personal thing. And so when you grow your business and you diversify, it's going to be very dependent on the time that you have, the focus time, the unfocused time, the on camera, the not on camera moments that you want to spend growing your business. So I think from there, when you branch out, then connect. And so we talked about that connection piece. It's super important and just really helpful for you to continue growing, but also for your audience if that's something that you're trying to do.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Melissa. So I just dropped that link for you guys in the comments. You will be able to download that workbook. It's definitely really valuable. It's a wonderful resource for especially teacherpreneurs who are just getting started. You can also check Melissa out on Instagram at Melissa is Teaching on Instagram. Lots of valuable content there, consistent content as well. I'm so in awe of your consistency as well.
Aw. I mentioned this before. I've got a big I cannot turn my camera around because there's stuff on it that I cannot show, but
Yeah,
there's a good schedule on there, checklists of posts per week and stuff like that. So it's helpful to be organized there.
awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
no fear.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for joining me today and joining us on our channel. It was a really valuable time spent with you and lots of great insight and key info. And we hope to have you back really soon. So thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Oh, thanks for having me, Kinga. Always good to
Awesome.
be here.
Super. Okay. Thank you, Melissa. Have a good
Thank
one.
you. Bye.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us today. It was a long one, but it was a good one as well. Um, we hope to have more of these lives coming more consistently to you guys. Let us know if you like these guest speakers. And we hope to be joining you again soon. We will also be streaming weekly in our Facebook community, Xiaohenshu for Teachers on Facebook, where we'll be doing more casual chit chat. So it's always a great opportunity to come in, connect with Coach Chris and I, ask some questions you have about Chinese social media, scaling your teaching biz, and getting your socials up and running. So with that being said, thank you guys so much. Awesome. Joelle says she likes the guests. Thank you so much. And Joel, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. I love it. And I learned something new about you today, that you're a Libra. I love it. So thank you guys so much for joining me. And I'll catch you next time. Have a good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Take care. Bye-bye.